Have you ever stopped to think about it? How are the thoughts swirling around in your head actually connected to the words that come out of your mouth? And maybe even more amazing, how does a tiny baby go from just crying to speaking in full, complex sentences? Well, today we're diving deep into that incredible link between our language and our thoughts, and the amazing journey we all take to learn how to speak. So here's our game plan. First up, we're going to tackle that huge philosophical question, which comes first, thought or language? Then we'll follow the magical journey of a baby's first words, which will lead us right into the classic nature versus nurture debate. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together, from simple baby babble to witty, complex banter. All right, let's jump right into the big one, the real chicken or the egg question of psychology. Do we have these fully formed ideas in our minds and then just go looking for the right words to pin on them? Or do the words we know actually build the house that our thoughts live in? Do they shape what we're even capable of thinking? This right here, this is the central puzzle that psychologists and linguists have been wrestling with for over a century. And, the answer could literally change how we understand the very nature of human consciousness. Now, this whole debate basically boils down to four major schools of thought, championed by four intellectual heavyweights. You've got Worf, who believed language is the boss. Then Piaget, who argued the complete opposite. Vygotsky saw them as partners in a dance, while Chomsky was convinced they were just two separate systems doing their own thing. Let's start with Worf's idea, which is known as the language relativist hypothesis. Now, it's not just one thing. It actually comes in two flavors. The strong version says that language flat out determines thought. Honestly, there's very little support for that one. But the weak version is much more popular. It suggests something more subtle, that the language you speak can influence what you pay attention to, how you perceive things, and even what you remember. Okay, now, in the other corner, you have Jean Piaget. He argued that thought absolutely comes first. Think about it. A kid might be able to say the word smaller, but they don't really get it until their brain has developed the actual concept of size comparison. For Piaget, you have to think it before you can truly say it. But, and this is a big but, Piaget's theory hits a snag when you look at some really fascinating cases. Take Laura, a woman with severe cognitive impairments but totally normal language skills. Or people with Williams syndrome who can have low IQs but are incredibly eloquent storytellers. These cases throw a wrench in the works, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, language and general intelligence can be on two totally separate tracks. This is where Vygotsky comes in with a brilliant middle ground. He suggested that when we're born, thought and language are two separate rivers. One is nonverbal thinking, the other is just pre-intellectual sound. But then, around the age of 2, those two rivers merge. They become this one, powerful, intertwined force where our speech reflects our thoughts, and our thoughts are shaped by our language. And our final major viewpoint comes from Noam Chomsky. He argues that language and thought are fundamentally separate. And his proof? It's that feeling we've all had. You know exactly what you're thinking, it's crystal clear in your head, but you just can't find the right words. Chomsky says if thought and language were the same thing, that experience would be impossible. Okay, so we've got all these different theories. But how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's switch gears and look at how a child actually learns to talk, a journey that is remarkably, almost magically, the same for kids all over the world. That first year of life follows this beautiful, predictable pattern. It starts with crying, of course. Then, around 2 months, you get that sweet, cooing sound. By 6 months, they're babbling away. And then, at about 10 months, something really cool happens, echolalia. This is when their babbling starts to have the same rhythm and intonation as real speech. It's like they're practicing the music of their native language before they even know any of the words. And after all that practice, by about 18 months old, a toddler has a toolkit of around 50 words. These are the greatest hits, mama, dada, ball, more. It's a small set, but it's a really powerful start. But then, get ready, because the vocabulary explosion kicks in. In just 6 short months between 18 and 24 months old, their vocabulary doesn't just grow, it multiplies by 5, jumping from about 50 words to an average of 300. It's wild. And the explosion just keeps going. By the time that same child is 6 years old and starting school, they will have a vocabulary of around 13,000 words. Just think about that for a second. That means they have been learning, on average, several new words every single day of their life. It is an absolutely astonishing feat.
Now, during this early stage, kids are masters of efficiency. They use what linguists call hollow phrases. They can take a single word like doll, and depending on their tone and a point of a finger, it can mean a whole sentence like, "Can I please have that doll?" Or, "Hey, look at my doll." Then, once they start putting words together around 18 months, they use something called telegraphic speech. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Just like an old school telegram that charged by the word, they strip out all the extra stuff, the A's, the thes, and is's, and just give you the core message. Play doll. Super efficient. So, seeing this incredible, lightning-fast development just begs a massive question. How is this even possible? Are we born with some kind of special blueprint for language hardwired into our brains? Or is it something we learn from scratch, just by listening? This, my friends, is the classic nature versus nurture debate. And there are pretty much three main camps that try to explain this miracle. The environmental view says it's all about nurture, learning from our surroundings. The nativist view argues it's nature. We're just born with the ability. And, you guessed it, the social interactionist view says it's a mix of both. The two heavyweight contenders here are B.F. Skinner and him again, Noam Chomsky. Skinner, in the nurture corner, said language is learned just like anything else. Parents reward kids for saying things right, and kids imitate what they hear. But Chomsky, championing nature, said no way, that process is way too slow and sloppy to explain how creatively and quickly kids learn to talk. So Chomsky's big idea was the language acquisition device, or the L.A.D. for short. He proposed that we are all born with this sort of hypothetical black box in our brains that's genetically programmed with the universal rules of grammar. This L.A.D. lets a child listen to all the messy, imperfect speech around them and instinctively figure out how their specific language works. And that third theory, well, it basically bridges the gap. It suggests that language isn't just something that's innate, and it's not just something that's learned. It's co-constructed. It emerges from that social dance, that back-and-forth interaction between a child and the people who talk with them. Okay, so let's bring it all home. How does all this come together as a child grows up? How do they go from just naming things and asking for juice to understanding sarcasm, telling elaborate stories, and debating ideas? Well, we see this really clear progression. In early childhood, speech is very egocentric. It's all about me and my world. As they get older, it becomes sociocentric. They start to understand you and can see the world from another person's perspective. Then, by adolescence, they make that final leap into complex, abstract language, understanding metaphors, sarcasm, and thinking about hypotheticals. This is the real shift from just communicating to having the kind of nuanced conversations that define adult life. In the end, maybe the best way to think about all of this isn't as a question with a single answer. Maybe it's not about which one comes first. As Vygotsky put it so beautifully, the connection is a process, a constant, living dance, a continual movement back and forth between our deepest thoughts and the words we use to share them with the world.